In the world of ice hockey, where flying pucks, high-speed chases, and clashing sticks are all just another day at the rink, no one really expects tragedy to strike mid-game. But that's exactly what happened on October 28, 2023, when 29-year-old American hockey player Adam Johnson tragically lost his life during a match between the Nottingham Panthers and the Sheffield Steelers at the Utilita Arena in Sheffield, England. Johnson, who was playing for the Panthers, suffered a fatal neck injury when he was accidentally struck by the skate blade of opposing player Matt Petgrave during what seemed like a routine play. In the blink of an eye, the match came to a horrifying halt, and the packed arena fell into stunned silence. It wasn't just a freak accident, it was a wake-up call for the entire sport. The footage quickly went viral, and as the hockey community processed the shock, questions around player safety took center stage. For many fans and players, Johnson wasn't just a talented athlete. He was a reminder that even in a game as rough and tumble as hockey, some dangers are simply too great to ignore. In the weeks that followed, authorities launched an investigation, and Matt Petgrave was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, an unusual move in professional sports, and one that sparked heated debates. Was it just an accident? Could it have been avoided? Was there any intent? After an extensive 18-month investigation, the Crown Prosecution Service concluded in April 2025 that there was not enough evidence to pursue criminal charges. The decision brought a mix of relief, sadness, and a renewed focus on what really mattered, preventing something like this from happening again. The response from hockey organizations around the globe was swift. The English Ice Hockey Association made neck guards mandatory starting January 2024. USA Hockey, not wanting to be caught unprepared, followed up by requiring neck protection for all under 18 players and officials from August 2024. The International Ice Hockey Federation also mandated neck laceration guards in all competitions, including the Olympics. The American Hockey League joined in too, mandating cut-resistant neck protection for everyone on the ice beginning in the 2024-25 season. Even with these moves, not every league was quick to act. The Elite Ice Hockey League, EIHL, where Johnson had been playing, stopped short of a full mandate, instead strongly recommending neck guards, leaving the decision to individual players. Many welcomed the new safety rules, but others worried about comfort, visibility, or whether these changes would fundamentally alter the sport. But for most, the memory of Johnson collapsing on the ice was enough to erase any doubts. In the months following his death, tributes poured in. The Nottingham Panthers retired his number 47 jersey, ensuring no one would ever wear it again. A memorial plaque was placed at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, a quiet, powerful reminder of a young man taken far too soon. And while the legal side of the story has now closed, the emotional impact is still fresh. Players, coaches, and fans alike have all been forced to reconsider just how dangerous the sport they love can be. Johnson's death wasn't just a headline. It became a symbol, a call to action, and a pivotal moment in hockey's ongoing evolution. His tragic passing prompted more than just rule changes. It reminded everyone that behind every jersey number is a human being, and no goal, no victory, is worth the loss of a life. While the game of hockey continues, faster and harder than ever, it now does so with a little more caution, a little more protection, and the memory of Adam Johnson skating silently in the minds of those who lace up their skates. It was a typical fall afternoon in East Harlem. Cool breeze, golden sunlight, and the usual hum of subway chaos under Lexington Avenue. At the East 125th Street station, people were just trying to get through their day. One of them was a 31-year-old man aboard the Uptown 6 train. Maybe he was headed home. Maybe he just wanted some peace. But he was about to make a decision that would turn an ordinary ride into something disturbingly unforgettable. At around 4:30 p.m., the man did something risky. He moved between subway cars while the train was in motion. A little-known fact for non-New Yorkers: riding between cars isn't just dangerous, it's illegal. But still, people do it. Some for thrills, some for space, and apparently some for bathroom breaks. Yep, Witnesses later said the man appeared to be defecating between the cars just moments before he fell. Yes, seriously. In one of the most densely populated cities in the world, he chose the gap between two moving train cars as his makeshift restroom. That's not bold. That's bizarre. Then, disaster struck. As the train was pulling into East 125th Street, he lost his balance, fell to the tracks, and was struck by the train as it continued to leave the station. The impact was fatal. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No chance to save him. The MTA and FDNY quickly confirmed the death, and a wave of confusion and fear spread across the platform. But wait, it gets weirder. Just 20 minutes earlier, in a completely separate incident on the very same platform, a 50-year-old homeless man nicknamed Frenchie emerged from the tracks, bloody, disoriented, and seriously injured. He had no idea how he ended up there or if he'd been hit by a train. Frenchie was bleeding from a massive gash on his butt, a broken pelvis, and other injuries. Somehow, he climbed back onto the platform like a subway war veteran. He was taken to Harlem Hospital, thankfully in stable condition. Two bizarre incidents, one station, one day, and, according to police, no connection. Just a tragic coincidence that had commuters and cops alike scratching their heads. The chaos wreaked havoc on the entire subway system. Northbound trains were rerouted, passengers were trapped underground for nearly an hour, and frustrated riders poured into the streets. 17-year-old Angel Torres summed it up best. "I was scared." The man who died wasn't officially identified, but his story quickly spread online, not just because of the grim details, but because of how surreal it all was. It wasn't a fight, a push, or a robbery. It was just a man, a dangerous habit, and one tragically bad decision. Still, beneath the shock and social media memes there was a human being, someone with a story, a past, and likely a family that loved him. Accidents like this are strange and haunting, but they remind us how fragile life is, and how quickly it can be gone. May he rest in peace, and may we all think twice before riding between subway cars. It was July 14, 2024, in China, when 24-year-old Pan Xiaoting prepared for what would tragically become her final mukbang livestream. Known online for her jaw-dropping binge-eating challenges, Pan had built a loyal following that eagerly tuned in to watch her consume massive quantities of food. That day, her table was packed. 22 pounds of food, from fried chicken and seafood to rich chocolate cake. Thousands were watching. Pan's rise to fame was anything but glamorous. She started off as a waitress, struggling to make ends meet. But everything changed when she discovered mukbang, a viral trend that began in South Korea, where creators livestreamed themselves eating large meals while chatting with their audience. At first, it was just a hobby, but Pan's charisma and willingness to take on outrageous food challenges quickly earned her a growing fan base. She soon quit her job to become a full-time content creator. To keep up with the competition, Pan rented a professional studio and invested heavily in her live stream setup. The effort paid off. Donations and gifts poured in, and she became one of China's most popular mukbang influencers. But behind the scenes, her success came with a dangerous price. Her challenges grew more extreme over time, some lasting up to 10 hours, featuring absurd amounts of food. Her parents were worried. They begged her to slow down, warning her that no amount of money was worth risking her health. But Pan believed she had it under control. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. She had already been hospitalized several times for internal bleeding and digestive issues. Still, she pushed on, driven by the expectations of her fans and the pressure to keep topping her last performance. On the day of her final stream, everything seemed routine. Pan smiled for the camera, chatted with viewers, and began devouring the huge meal in front of her. Fans cheered her on in the comments, but as the hours went by, her demeanor changed. Her pace slowed, her breathing became labored, and she looked visibly uncomfortable. Concerned viewers began urging her to stop, but Pan, determined to finish the challenge, kept eating. Then, midstream, she collapsed. Panic exploded in the live stream chat. Viewers pleaded for someone to help. Emergency services were called, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. Pan was pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy revealed the grim details. Her stomach had ruptured from the massive intake of food, leading to internal bleeding and fatal complications. Experts later explained that eating such enormous quantities can stretch the stomach to dangerous levels, compress major blood vessels, and put severe strain on the heart. Pan's death reignited fierce debate over mukbang culture. Once meant to keep lonely viewers company during meals, the trend has increasingly become a spectacle of excess. Despite China's 2021 ban on binge-eating content under an anti-food waste law, many creators, including Pan, continued streaming these risky sessions. Her passing left fans heartbroken and shocked. Some mourned her deeply, while others questioned how content like this is still allowed. Pan's story is now a sobering reminder of the high cost creators can pay in the pursuit of online fame. The story of Gary Hoy is one of those strange and tragic cases that sticks with people not just because of how unusual it was, but because of how quickly a moment meant to impress turned into a fatal mistake. Gary Hoy was a well-respected corporate and securities lawyer at the Toronto firm Holden Day Wilson. Known among colleagues as intelligent, passionate, and maybe just a little theatrical, Gary had one party trick that stood out from the rest. He would throw himself against the office windows on the 24th floor to show how sturdy and unbreakable they were. No, seriously, he actually did this, and for a long time it worked. Gary wasn't being reckless just for laughs. He genuinely believed in demonstrating the quality of his office building. The windows were made of tempered glass, and he had performed this stunt multiple times before, bouncing off them like a rubber ball while everyone around him gasped in shock. It became his signature move during office tours, especially when new articling students were visiting. To Gary, it was part science, part confidence, and all showmanship. But on July 9, 1993, something went horribly wrong. That day, Hoy was giving a tour to a group of law students, proudly showing off the office space and explaining what it was like to work there. In classic Gary fashion, he decided to pull out his famous window stunt because what better way to say welcome to the team than flinging yourself against a pane of glass 24 stories up. He ran at the window once. It held. He did it again, and again the glass didn't break, but this time it didn't need to. The entire window popped out of its frame, and before anyone could react, Gary Hoy fell to his death. It was a surreal moment. The glass didn't shatter. It was still intact, just no longer attached to the building. Engineers later confirmed that the window itself was strong, but the frame wasn't designed to withstand repeated human impact. It wasn't supposed to be tested like that, and the mounting system failed under the stress. The fallout was heavy, not just emotionally, though that was devastating enough for his co-workers and the students who witnessed it, but also professionally. The firm Hoy worked for, Holden Day Wilson, was already facing internal issues. His death brought a great deal of negative attention to the firm, and just a few years later in 1996, the firm shut down entirely, marking one of the largest law firm collapses in Canadian history. To this day, the story of Gary Hoy is often cited as a cautionary tale, sometimes in safety training, sometimes in law lectures, and sometimes on TV shows like Mythbusters or 1000 Ways to Die. But behind the dark humor that occasionally surrounds the retelling, there's a sobering truth. Even intelligent, capable professionals can make fatal miscalculations. Gary Hoy wasn't trying to be reckless. In his mind, he was showing confidence, reliability, and maybe even inspiring the next generation of lawyers. But he underestimated the limits of the materials and the unpredictability of physics. His story serves as a strange and sad reminder that boundaries, even those made of glass, are there for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, office windows should be admired from a safe distance, not used as personal trampolines. It seemed like just another breezy Monday evening in Queens. The hustle of rush hour was in full swing, people slipping into their routine post-work zombie modes, earbuds in, eyes glazed over, and dreams of dinner dancing in their heads. Among them was 51-year-old Edward Leonard, bartender, friend, and all-around good guy, heading home after a day's work, likely thinking of nothing more than beating the crowd onto the Manhattan-bound F train. But Edward had no clue that this seemingly ordinary ride would turn into something far more horrific, and ultimately his last. At around 6:45 p.m. on May 15, 2023, Edward attempted to board the F train at the Kew Gardens Union Turnpike station. The doors were closing, but like many of us have done before, he made a last-second dash. After all, nobody wants to wait another 8 minutes, right? What happened next, however, was anything but routine. Witnesses say Leonard's clothing, or possibly even his arm, got caught in the doors just as the train began to move. In a moment of panic, he banged on the side of the train, trying to get someone's attention, but the conductor didn't see him. The F train kept moving, completely unaware of the human being trapped on its side. Edward was dragged roughly 60 feet along the platform. "He got dragged by the train car," said Bernice Maitland, a horrified witness who had just exited the same train. "I was frantic. I was crying." She later added that Leonard was still breathing when she saw him lying on the platform, bloodied, missing a shoe, and battered beyond recognition. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but it was too late. Edward Leonard was pronounced dead shortly after at Jamaica Hospital. The cause? Blunt force trauma. Now, here's where things start to get murky and truly bizarre. There were no surveillance cameras on that part of the platform. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts. Some said it was his arm. Others said it was his coat. One source close to the investigation claimed Leonard might have been intoxicated, while co-workers noted he was on medication for chronic back pain. The MTA immediately questioned the train crew and ran drug and alcohol tests, but no foul play or driver negligence was confirmed. The train was one of the MTA's newer models, the R160, known for improved safety measures. Yet somehow, it failed to register that a person was stuck in the doors. The MTA later reminded the public that subway doors aren't like elevator doors. They won't pop back open just because something's wedged in. In the wake of the incident, the MTA referenced their safety data. In 2012 alone, 141 people were struck by trains, 55 fatally. A pilot program had been proposed to install platform screen doors. Think of those glass doors in Asian subways, but it's unclear if that would have helped in Edward's case. What makes Edward's death so bizarre is that it wasn't a case of someone falling onto the tracks, or even intentional harm. It was something most New Yorkers have done at least once, trying to squeeze through subway doors at the last minute, and it cost him everything. Edward Leonard wasn't just another name in a tragic headline. He was a bartender at the Cambria Hotel in Chelsea, known for being generous to a fault. He would literally give somebody the shirt off of his back, said his close friend Judy Miller. He was a really generous man. And though the city kept moving that night, those who knew Edward were stopped in their tracks. He was loved, he was appreciated, and his death, strange, sudden, and senseless, reminds us all to slow down, stay safe, and never underestimate the ordinary moments that can shift into tragedy in a heartbeat. It was September 14, 2020, in Aba, a Tibetan autonomous region in Sichuan province, China, when tragedy struck during what started as an ordinary live stream. Lamu, a 30-year-old Tibetan video blogger, had become a beloved figure online. With over 780,000 followers on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, she charmed audiences by sharing slices of rural Tibetan life, cooking traditional meals, foraging in the mountains, lip-syncing to songs, and always dressed in traditional clothing, makeup-free and glowing with authenticity. Her content was simple but heartfelt, and it resonated with people across the country. But behind her bright smile was a darker story. Lamu had been trapped in an abusive marriage. In June 2020, she finally divorced her husband Tung after enduring years of mistreatment. Even after the separation, he continued to harass her, demanding she return to him. Lamu stood firm in her decision, not realizing the danger that still loomed. On the morning of September 14th, she posted her final video, singing a traditional Tibetan song. Later that day, she went live again, casually chatting with fans. But suddenly, the stream went dark. What her viewers didn't know was that Tang had entered her home, carrying a bucket of gasoline. Off camera, but still live, he doused Lamu in the liquid and set her on fire. Though the screen remained black, the horrifying sounds of chaos and Lamu's screams were broadcast to thousands of stunned viewers, powerless to help. Neighbors rushed to her aid, managing to put out the flames and call emergency services. Lamu was hospitalized with burns covering 90% of her body. For 2 agonizing weeks, she fought for her life, but on September 30th, she passed away. Her death sent shockwaves through China and beyond. Supporters raised funds for her treatment and flooded her Douyin account with messages of grief and outrage. Tang was arrested shortly after the attack and later sentenced to death. The court condemned his actions as cruel and calculated revenge over her decision to leave him. Lamu's death highlighted a much larger issue: domestic violence in China. Although the country officially criminalized domestic abuse in 2016, critics say the laws are full of loopholes, failing to cover non-married couples, same-sex relationships, or emotional abuse. In many rural areas, violence is still seen as a private matter, discouraging victims from seeking help. During her marriage, Lamu had reportedly asked authorities for protection, but her pleas were dismissed as mere family issues. That lack of support ultimately cost her life. In 2020, China introduced a 30-day cooling-off period for couples seeking divorce, meant to reduce impulsive breakups. But for abuse victims like Lamu, it can mean being trapped with their abuser for even longer. A 2013 study by the All China Women's Federation reported that 1 in 4 married women in China had experienced domestic violence. The problem is even more severe in rural areas like Aba, where traditional values run deep and women have fewer resources. Following Lamu's death, activists and fans turned her Douyin page into a digital memorial. Her videos, once a celebration of culture and daily life, became symbols of strength, sorrow, and the urgent need for change. Some local governments have since taken steps to prevent similar tragedies, including databases to track known abusers. But many argue it's not enough. Lamu's life was full of grace, resilience, and authenticity. Her death was a devastating loss, but it sparked conversations China could no longer ignore. Her story continues to inspire efforts for justice, safety, and real protection for those trapped in cycles of abuse. If you've ever spent time in a gym, you know there's a unique kind of respect reserved for those who push the limits, the ones stacking plates like pancakes and making it look almost effortless. Justin Vicky was one of those people. A well-known fitness influencer based in Bali, he was admired not just for his impressive physique, but for his genuine passion for motivating others. With over 30,000 followers on Instagram, he wasn't just showing off gains. He was sharing guidance, encouragement, and a love for the grind. But in July 2023, the fitness community was hit hard with devastating news. Justin had died in a freak weightlifting accident that no one saw coming. It happened at the Paradise Bali gym, a place where he trained regularly and inspired many. That day, he attempted a squat with 210 kilograms on his shoulders. That's about 450 pounds, a serious lift even for seasoned athletes. As he lowered into the squat, something went wrong. He lost balance, and the barbell, that enormous load, came crashing down on the back of his neck. A spotter was there, but the sheer weight and angle were unforgiving. Justin fell backward, and the impact caused a fatal neck injury, compressing vital nerves that affected his heart and lungs. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery, but tragically he didn't make it. The news spread fast, not just in Bali but around the world. Fellow gym-goers, fans, and influencers shared tributes and condolences, mourning someone who seemed almost larger than life. The gym released a heartfelt statement, calling him more than a trainer or athlete. He was a mentor, a brother, a beacon of strength, and honestly, by all accounts, that wasn't an exaggeration. Justin wasn't just about lifting heavy. He was about lifting people up, helping others find confidence, stay disciplined, and embrace the fitness journey with positivity and grit. He embodied the spirit of the fitness world at its best, passionate, supportive, and humble despite his own strength. His loss wasn't just felt by those who knew him. It shook an entire online and offline community that looked up to him for daily motivation. His death raised serious conversations in the fitness world about safety, spotting, and knowing your limits. Heavy lifting is no joke. Even the strongest bodies can falter when things go wrong. His story is a painful reminder that while striving to be your best is admirable, safety should never take a back seat. Gym culture often celebrates pushing past limits, but sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step back and assess the risk. Justin Vicky's legacy now carries a sobering message alongside all the inspiration. Respect the weight, respect your body, and never take the process for granted. It was a cool Sunday night in Queens, and for most people the weekend was winding down. School loomed ahead, and the city's heartbeat thudded steadily underground. For two girls, just 13 and 12, it seemed like a harmless thrill ride. A stunt, a moment of rebellion. They boarded the 7 train at Flushing Main Street, unaware that they were about to make their last stop. The 13-year-old, whose name was not released due to her age, was subway surfing. Yeah, you heard that right, subway surfing. That insane trend where kids literally climb on top of moving subway trains and run, or jump between cars, like it's some kind of IRL video game. Only there are no extra lives here. The girls clambered to the top of the train as it rattled westward through Queens. It's not clear how long they stayed up there, but as the train approached the 111th Street station in Corona around 11 p.m., things took a deadly turn. The train came to a stop, but the sudden jolt was too much. The girls lost their balance. One fell between the cars and under the train. She didn't survive. The other girl was critically injured, suffering head trauma and brain bleeding. She was rushed to Elmhurst Hospital and intubated, her fate hanging in the balance. It was a night that began with adrenaline and ended in tragedy. For their families, it was a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. And here's the thing, this wasn't even the first time. In fact, it was the 6th subway surfing death in New York City that year alone. Just a week earlier, another 13-year-old boy fell to his death while pulling the exact same stunt at the Forest Avenue station, also in Queens. It's become a horrifying trend, fueled by TikTok, Instagram, and the illusion that likes and followers are worth risking your life. What makes this case so bizarre isn't just the death itself, it's the fact that even after it happened, witnesses reported seeing more kids doing it again the very next day. Same station, same tracks, same game of chance with a train weighing hundreds of tons. Despite what the NYPD says about increased patrols and drone surveillance along popular subway surfing routes like the 7 Line and the J Line, the problem seems to be growing. Even Transit Chief Joseph Galata admitted that stopping the trend is proving difficult. "We're hitting social media hard," he said, putting out videos with parents, showing the effects. The effects? Let's talk about them. Shattered families, traumatized commuters, and kids with futures cut brutally short. MTA board members are now pushing for more than enforcement. They want outreach, education, real talk from real people who teens will actually listen to. As board member David Jones put it, "You feel invulnerable at this time in your life. We have to have people in their world telling them, no, this is not the way." And maybe that's the heartbreaking core of this tragedy. It didn't happen because of hate or crime or malice. It happened because a kid wanted to feel alive, wanted to be seen, wanted to go viral. Mayor Eric Adams summed it up with a sobering truth. No post is worth your future. As for the family, they're left with memories of a bright young girl whose life ended far too soon. Friends lit candles, left notes, and posted tributes online. One message read, "Fly high, angel. You were too bold, too beautiful for this world." And while her story ends in heartbreak, maybe it can also be a warning, a message louder than the rumble of any train. You don't have to risk your life to matter. You already do. It was May 16, 2024, in Suffolk, Virginia. a day that would end in unimaginable tragedy. Raleigh Freeman III, known to his fans as rapper Rio Honcho, was only 17 years old. Full of talent, drive, and charisma, he was building a name for himself in the music world. With nearly 29,000 followers on Instagram and a growing presence on Spotify, Rio was on the path to something big. That evening, Rio went live from his home, a casual stream for his fans. It wasn't anything unusual. He often used these moments to connect with followers and share his personality outside of his music. But this time, things took a devastating turn. During the live stream, Rio picked up a handgun, something he had used before in photos and videos as part of his image. This particular gun had a green laser and a flashlight attachment. At first, he treated it casually, almost like a prop. He waved it around, appeared to turn off the safety, and then, in what seemed like a moment of overconfidence, pointed it at his own head. He made a bold statement and pulled the trigger. A loud gunshot rang out. The phone dropped. The live stream abruptly ended. Many viewers were left stunned, unsure if what they had seen was real. Some thought it was a dark joke or a fake stunt, but the truth came quickly. Rio had accidentally shot himself. Emergency responders arrived and rushed him to the hospital, but the damage was done. He was pronounced dead shortly after. Authorities later confirmed that the gunshot was accidental and self-inflicted. The news rocked the local community and sent shockwaves through his online following. Rio wasn't just a promising rapper, he was a son, a student, a friend. His mother, Monica Savage, a single parent who had poured her heart into raising her only child, was devastated. In a heartbreaking interview, she spoke through tears, describing the moment she found him and her wish that she could bring him back. In the wake of the tragedy, Rio's cousin started a GoFundMe to help cover funeral expenses. The campaign highlighted the family's pain and Monica's deep love for her son. Support flooded in from fans and strangers alike. At school, teachers and classmates mourned his loss. His teacher, Cara Dorsey, shared words of encouragement online, urging students to honor Rio's legacy by working toward their dreams. A balloon release followed, a colorful, emotional tribute to a life that ended far too soon. Rio's accidental death also reignited conversations around gun safety. Authorities began investigating how a loaded firearm ended up in his possession. Experts stressed the importance of education and secure gun storage, especially in households with teens. Simple safety steps, they noted, could save lives. Rio Honcho's music, songs like Money Getta and DOA, remains as a reminder of his talent and potential. Though his life was cut short, his story stands as a powerful lesson on the importance of caution, awareness, and protecting our youth. In 2022, a tragic accident at a foundry in Mapleton, Illinois, reminded everyone how crucial workplace safety truly is and how quickly things can turn devastating when it's overlooked. Stephen Dirks, a 39-year-old melting specialist with only 9 days on the job at Caterpillar Inc., lost his life in a horrific incident that shocked the community and raised serious questions about industrial safety standards. Stephen's job involved working with molten iron, liquid metal heated to temperatures soaring above 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the kind of heat that instantly melts almost anything it touches, creating a dangerous environment where one wrong step can be fatal. On June 2, 2022, while performing a routine task of taking a sample from a furnace, Stephen fell into an 11-foot deep vat of molten iron. The impact was instantaneous and deadly. He was incinerated immediately upon contact. This was no ordinary workplace accident. It was an event that could have been prevented. Following an investigation, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, found that Caterpillar had failed to implement required safety measures around the vats of molten metal. There were no guardrails or restraint systems in place to protect workers from falling into the molten iron. This glaring absence of fall protection exposed employees to a life-threatening hazard that should have been carefully managed and guarded against. As a result, OSHA cited Caterpillar for a willful violation, which is a serious charge indicating that the company knowingly ignored safety regulations. The company was fined $145,027, underscoring the gravity of the oversight. This incident also cast a spotlight on ongoing safety concerns at the Mapleton foundry, as it was the second fatality at the facility in just 6 months. While the numbers and legal actions are important, it's essential to remember the human story behind this tragedy. Stephen Dierks was more than an employee. He was a devoted partner to Jessica Sutter and a father to 3 daughters. His obituary described him as a hard-working teddy bear of a man with calloused hands and a tender heart, someone who took pride in his work and cherished his family deeply. Losing him left an irreplaceable void in their lives. Stephen's death serves as a stark reminder of the inherent dangers in industrial environments where molten metals and heavy machinery are involved. It also highlights the critical responsibility employers have to safeguard their workers. Safety isn't just about ticking boxes or avoiding fines. It's about protecting human lives. This heartbreaking incident at Caterpillar's foundry underlines the need for rigorous enforcement of safety protocols and a culture that prioritizes the well-being of employees above all else. Fall protection systems like guardrails or restraint devices might seem like basic measures, but in hazardous settings, they are life-saving. Workplaces handling extreme heat and dangerous materials must be held accountable to the highest standards. Stephen's story is a powerful call to action to prevent such avoidable tragedies from happening again. Every worker deserves to return home safely to their loved ones at the end of the day. In honoring Stephen's memory, the industry must recommit to the principles of safety, vigilance, and respect for human life, because no job, deadline, or cost savings is worth a life lost. His passing is a sobering lesson that safety failures have real consequences, and that protecting workers is a responsibility no company can afford to neglect. It was a typical Monday rush hour in Queens, commuters hustling home, earbuds in, and eyes glued to their phones. For 48-year-old Heriberto Quintana, it seemed like just another routine stop at the Roosevelt Avenue Jackson Heights station. Maybe he was thinking about dinner, maybe just eager to get home. Either way, he had no idea this would be his last subway ride. As the clock ticked toward 4:45 p.m., the station was packed with New Yorkers doing what New Yorkers do best, minding their business and hoping the train wasn't delayed. Heriberto was standing on the northbound F train platform when the unexpected happened. A verbal spat with another man escalated fast. Now, we all know subway scuffles are basically part of the NYC starter pack. Elbow room? Rare? Personal space? Non-existent. But what began as words quickly spiraled into a full-blown physical altercation with a 50-year-old man. No one knows what started it. Was it an accidental bump, a dirty look, or the age-old headphone volume dispute? The cause is still fuzzy, but within seconds, chaos erupted on the platform. As the train barreled into the station, tragedy struck. Heriberto either slipped or was pushed, and he fell off the platform and onto the tracks. In front of dozens of horrified commuters, he was struck by the incoming train. Screams echoed through the underground tunnel as panicked witnesses called 911. Within minutes, NYPD and emergency crews swarmed the scene. What they found was grim. Heriberto was discovered pinned beneath the train, suffering from severe trauma. He was immediately transported to Elmhurst Hospital Center, but sadly, it was too late. He was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The exact details of how Heriberto fell, whether it was a tragic misstep or a fatal shove, remained unclear. The man involved in the fight was taken into custody, but police were still piecing together what happened. There was no immediate indication of intent, and as the investigation continued, questions hung in the air. Meanwhile, subway service across Queens descended into chaos. Several lines experienced delays for hours as crews worked the scene and investigators gathered evidence. Photos of the incident site flooded social media, showing yellow police tape, emergency lights, and stunned passengers trying to process what had just happened. What makes this case so bizarre isn't just the horror of the moment, but the randomness of it all. Two men meet on a platform. A moment of tension flares up, and in less than a minute, one of them is dead. No robbery, no weapons. Just a split-second scuffle in the wrong place at the worst possible time. Videos of the aftermath went viral online, sparking fierce debates about subway safety, mental health, and the unpredictable tension that simmers beneath New York's streets. Some called for more law enforcement presence, others for better platform barriers, anything to prevent another senseless tragedy like this one. But behind the headlines and hashtags was a man who mattered. Heriberto Quintana was a Queens resident, a father, and a neighbor. His family later spoke out, describing him as kind, hardworking, and someone who never went looking for trouble. He didn't deserve this, his cousin told reporters. He just wanted to get home like everyone else. And that's the haunting part. He could have been any of us. In a city that never sleeps and barely pauses, Heriberto's story is a chilling reminder that life can change, or end in a blink. Yet, even in that darkness, his loved ones held on to hope that his story would lead to safer platforms and better protections for millions who ride the rails every day. Rest in peace, Heriberto. Your ride may have ended, but your story rolls on. It was January 27, 2021, in the quiet town of Smolin, Russia. At around 6 p.m., a familiar face appeared on a controversial YouTube channel known as First Step. That face belonged to 60-year-old Yuri Dushechkin, affectionately called Grandpa by his online fans. Yuri was no stranger to the channel. He'd become a regular over time, known for his warm personality amidst the chaos of each stream. But sadly, that night would be the last time viewers saw him alive. Yuri was participating in yet another live stream, broadcast to about 150 people. The stream followed the same format the channel had become infamous for: dangerous stunts, reckless dares, and viewers donating money to push things further. But this time, things took a tragic turn. During the broadcast, Yuri was encouraged by the host and viewers to drink an alarming amount of vodka, reportedly around 1.5 liters. As the stream carried on, Yuri's condition began to deteriorate. His speech slurred, his body swayed, and soon he collapsed. Yet the camera kept rolling. What made this even more disturbing was that Yuri's motionless body remained on display, live on camera, for quite some time. Some viewers grew worried and tried to raise alarms in the chat. Others didn't take it seriously, brushing it off as part of the show. When emergency responders finally arrived at his apartment on Udorov Street, it was too late. Yuri was already gone. The channel was run by a 39-year-old man known online as JEA, and it had developed a reputation for what are called trash streams. These types of live broadcasts typically feature vulnerable people, those struggling with addiction, homelessness, or poverty, who are convinced to perform degrading, risky, or outright dangerous acts in exchange for viewer donations. The more extreme the content, the more money rolled in. And Yuri, unfortunately, had become one of the most recognizable figures in this exploitative ecosystem. He wasn't just a guest, he was part of the show's identity. Over time, the pressure to keep things entertaining meant pushing boundaries further and further. The chaos of the stream that night, blaring music, a cluttered apartment, loud voices, masked the very real danger Yuri was in. As he downed more vodka, the audience egged him on, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to admit, how serious things were becoming. Once he collapsed, there was a moment of reckoning. While some in the chat begged for help to be called, others kept sending messages and donations as if it were still a game. Paramedics eventually arrived, but the damage was done. Preliminary reports suggested Yuri had died of alcohol poisoning, but a full investigation was quickly launched to find out exactly what happened and who should be held responsible. The reaction was swift. The Russian Regional Investigative Committee opened a criminal case, accusing the stream's organizers of negligence leading to death. Locals also came forward, saying they had complained for years about the noise, drunken guests, and chaos coming from the apartment used for filming, but nothing had ever changed. Even Russian Senator Alexei Pushkov spoke out, condemning trash streams as a dangerous trend and calling for legislation to prevent such tragedies. He argued that it was time to crack down on exploitative content that profits from people's suffering. Yuri's death shocked the online community and shed light on the darker side of internet entertainment. It wasn't just a single tragic event, it was a wake-up call. Critics began calling on platforms like YouTube to take stronger action against harmful content and do more to protect vulnerable individuals from being exploited on screen. As the investigation continued, one thing became clear: the culture that allowed this to happen, where human dignity is sacrificed for views and donations, has to change before more lives are lost. In today's world of social media, where everyone wants to capture the perfect moment and share it instantly, some risks are just not worth taking. A tragic example of this happened in Houston, where a teenager named DeLeon Alonzo Smith lost his life while trying to take a selfie with a loaded gun. The story is heartbreaking and serves as a harsh reminder about the dangers of careless behavior, especially when firearms are involved. DeLeon was only 19 years old when he decided to pose with a gun for a Snapchat photo. According to reports, he believed the gun was unloaded, but sadly, it was not. While trying to take the picture, the gun discharged and he was shot in the throat. The wound was fatal, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. This devastating accident shocked the community and highlighted a growing problem: the reckless use of firearms combined with the desire to capture attention on social media platforms. It might be tempting to wonder why anyone would risk their life for a selfie, but this incident is not isolated. Over the years, there have been numerous cases of people, especially young individuals, getting injured or even killed while handling guns for the sake of photos or videos. Social media culture often pushes people to go to extreme lengths to gain likes, followers, or online fame, sometimes without fully considering the consequences. The allure of appearing cool or tough with a firearm in hand can be strong, especially among teenagers and young adults. Unfortunately, many underestimate how dangerous guns are, or they mistakenly believe they know how to handle them safely. DeLeon's story is a tragic example of what can happen when this confidence turns into fatal carelessness. Authorities and safety experts emphasize that guns should never be treated as props or toys. Handling firearms requires respect, training, and a constant awareness of safety rules. The National Safety Council and other organizations have long promoted education on gun safety, urging gun owners and those around them to follow strict protocols. Always assume a gun is loaded, never point it at anything you don't intend to shoot, and keep your finger off the trigger unless you're ready to fire. What makes DeLeon's story even more significant is how it connects to the wider conversation about social media's impact on behavior. Platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok encourage users to capture dramatic, eye-catching moments, sometimes leading to risky stunts or dangerous trends. The desire for instant validation can cloud judgment, especially in younger, more impressionable users who might not fully grasp the potential consequences. While social media itself is not to blame, it certainly influences how people act and what they choose to share online. The pressure to be noticed, to go viral, or to appear a certain way can lead to poor decisions, especially when combined with other risky elements like firearms. DeLeon Alonzo Smith's death is a heartbreaking reminder that some actions have irreversible consequences. It's a call to action for parents, educators, and communities to talk openly about the dangers of guns and the importance of safe behavior, both online and offline. It's also a push for social media platforms to continue developing ways to promote responsible content and discourage dangerous trends. In the end, no selfie, no matter how impressive, is worth risking your life for. DeLeon's story serves as a sobering lesson about respect. Respect for life, for safety, and for the power of the choices we make every day. It's a tragic loss, but hopefully, it can inspire others to think twice before handling guns recklessly or seeking attention in unsafe ways. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Astoria, one of those breezy New York days where the sun hits just right between the rows of low-rise buildings and elevated train tracks. For 31-year-old William Olbris, Everything seemed normal. He blended in with the crowd on the Manhattan-bound N train platform at Broadway and 31st Street. Just another strap hanger waiting for his ride. But what happened next would turn that ordinary day into something disturbingly unforgettable. Eyewitnesses say William stood calmly, eyes fixed on the horizon as the train approached. Nothing seemed out of place until he walked toward the first car, bent down, and did something that made hearts stop. He placed his wallet gently on the platform. Then, without hesitation, he jumped. The southbound N train roared into the station at just the wrong second. A sickening thud echoed through the air, silencing the usual screeches and hums of rush hour. Onlookers screamed. Some froze. A few turned away. The impact was so brutal that parts of William's body fell onto the street below the elevated tracks. It was sudden, shocking, and undeniably gruesome. Emergency crews from the NYPD and FDNY rushed to the scene within minutes, but there was nothing they could do. William Olbreys was pronounced dead instantly. Cleanup and investigation forced the N line to shut down temporarily, leaving confused commuters stuck and station workers visibly shaken. Police didn't find a note, but the wallet he left behind seemed to say everything. It was almost like he wanted to be found, to be identified, to make sure someone knew it wasn't an accident. But that's not even the strangest part. Roughly 30 minutes before the jump, William posted one final, cryptic tweet. "It's time to pay the price." Attached was a short, bizarre 15-second video. Blurry, shaky footage of what might have been a train platform. Quick cuts, dim lighting, and eerie silence. It gave off the kind of unsettling vibes that leave you with goosebumps and more questions than answers. No manifesto, no farewell message, just those 6 haunting words in a glitchy video that quickly went viral. The internet did what it always does: speculated, dissected, theorized. Was he battling something? Was it a statement? Or just a final, fragmented cry for help? What makes William's death so bizarre isn't just how it happened. It's the deliberate buildup, the eerie foreshadowing, and the eerie calmness before the tragedy. Most suicides come with warning signs. William gave the world one final puzzle to piece together. His family later broke their silence. Through tears, they described William as creative, sensitive, and always deep in thought. "An artist of emotion," one cousin said. They said he struggled silently and hoped his story would open conversations about mental health, especially among young men. So, what began as an ordinary afternoon ended with a haunting tragedy and a powerful reminder. Even in a crowded city of millions, some people feel completely alone. Rest easy, William. You mattered more than you knew. It was a warm summer evening in Quozhou, China, on July 20th, 2021. Xiaoq, a 23-year-old crane operator, had just wrapped up another long shift at a construction site in Jiangxi province. Known for her petite frame, striking presence, and infectious energy, Xiao stood out in a field dominated by men. But what made her truly unique wasn't just her job, it was how she shared it with the world. Xiao had gained over 100,000 followers on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, by posting videos of her life high above the city skyline. She gave her viewers an inside look at the day-to-day reality of crane operations, all from the dizzying heights of her crane cabin. Her content was uplifting, her smile always present, and her videos challenged stereotypes about gender and labor. She was more than just an influencer. She was an inspiration. That evening, Xiao decided to record one last video before heading home. Her followers were used to her cheerful tone and playful style, often set against the unique backdrop of the construction site. At around 5:40 p.m., most of the workers had already left. The site was mostly quiet, with just a few people lingering. Xiao set up her phone, smiled at the camera, and began dancing and speaking like she always did, full of life. Then, in an instant, everything changed. The video turned blurry. Metal beams rushed past the screen. A sharp, terrifying scream echoed through the phone. Xiao's scream. She had fallen from her crane, nearly 160 feet to the ground below. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but it was too late. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Initial reports suggested that Xiaoq had been filming at the time of the fall, leading many to speculate that she was distracted by her phone, but her family firmly denied that. They explained that she was always cautious and professional, and she kept her phone in her bag during working hours. According to them, the fall happened because she missed a step while climbing down from the crane. A tragic accident, not a careless mistake. News of her death sent shockwaves through her fan base and across social media. Her followers, who had watched her dance and smile just hours earlier, were heartbroken. Many couldn't believe it. Some even shared the final moments of her video online, igniting debates about the ethics of circulating such personal and traumatic footage. Her family, devastated by the sudden loss, held a private funeral. In keeping with local tradition, her ashes were placed under a small umbrella on a table. Simple, quiet, and deeply moving. Authorities in Jiangshan City confirmed the incident and launched an investigation into whether proper safety protocols had been followed at the site. No further details were made public, but the tragedy raised broader concerns about safety in high-risk professions and how social media influences behavior in the workplace. Xiao's rise to internet fame was built on authenticity. She didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. Her content was real, relatable, and refreshing. She showed the world what it was like to balance tough work with the joys of everyday life, all while raising 2 young children. Her videos reminded people that crane operators weren't just part of the background, they were essential. Even though her family insisted her death wasn't connected to social media, the incident sparked comparisons to other tragedies, like the recent passing of Instagram personality Sophia Chung, who died after falling while taking a photo at a waterfall. Xiaoq's story became a haunting reminder of how fragile life can be. Her vibrant spirit, so full of light and determination, was gone in a moment. As her followers mourned an online icon, her loved ones were left to grieve a daughter, a mother, and a wife.